tension grows, Moscow is the scene of Prime Minister Stalin's birthday, and from all satellite nations, communist followers pay homage to the high priest of Marxism. Here, on his 70th birthday, Stalin rules the hardcore of world communism, which has divided the world into two armed camps. Proof of this division is the unrest evidencing itself in other parts of the world. Here, communist marchers are rioting in Tokyo. Both American and Japanese police are obliged to adopt stern measures after one GI has been injured. Elections have given the commies only one seat in the parliament, which may outlaw the party altogether. The demonstration was timed to precede the election, which gave the party supporting General MacArthur's policies an overwhelming majority. What they can't accomplish in a free election, they attempt by violence. Berlin, too, is the scene of smoldering communist unrest. Western occupation forces go on around-the-clock alert, ready for the communist youth push that would put the entire city in Soviet hands. For weeks, the red sector is kept aflame with every propaganda device in the commie repertoire. On the appointed day, as the parade gets underway, Berlin steels itself for violence. The vaunted gathering of 500,000 dwindles as the conquest of Berlin resolves itself to insults to the Western powers. When 4 ammunition-laden barges blew up in New Jersey's Raritan River, with a roar heard for 40 miles, the once prosperous and industrial town of South Amboy was left a shattered wreck. 4 dead were taken from the ruins, and 22 barge crewmen vanished completely as the city of 10,000 crumbled under the blast. Hardly a home or business building was left undamaged. Declared a disaster area, the city is put under martial law and barred to all but rescue workers. The largest active volcano in the world, Mauna Loa, spills a record volume of red-hot lava on the golden isle of Hawaii. The molten stream moves relentlessly from the fiery cone 13,000 feet above the sea, and scores of earthquake shocks accompany the outpouring. The deadly pattern streams down the flanks of Mauna Loa, a continuing menace to life and property. 5 long, desperate weeks, the Canadian city of Winnipeg has battled the swollen waters of the Red River. More than 50,000 volunteer workers man the dikes to hold back the raging torrent. The Red Cross and RCAF transport more than 2,500 patients to safety. Almost 1/3 of the population are forced to abandon their city and flee to shelter in other areas. Total cost of the damage to Winnipeg is estimated in the millions. White Sands, New Mexico, a special camera is installed in a V-2 rocket for flight into the stratosphere. These remarkable pictures made by the Department of Defense show what the Earth looks like from 20 miles up. Seconds later, at 58 miles, the curvature of the Earth appears with the rocket ripping through the air at 2,000 miles per hour. 500,000 throng St. Peter's Square, where Pope Pius officiates at the first outdoor canonization ceremony in Catholic Church history. Maria Goretti, whose preserved remains lie in state at the Vatican, becomes saint of the Church. Catholic pilgrims gather to revere the 11-year-old girl who was stabbed to death and on her deathbed prayed for her assassin. The United Nations forces stage a surprise invasion on the west coast port of Incheon in one of the most brilliant strategic moves of the Korean conflict. Marines swarm into landing craft for the invasion that will be an end run behind the North Korean lines. Under cover of a continuous barrage of rocket fire, the landing craft head for shore. They face an unknown strength in the Incheon garrison. Once again, the Marines are sticking their leather necks out. As the Marines hit the beach, they land almost without opposition. This thrust has taken the Red Koreans completely by surprise. A few die-hard Reds, however, need to be flushed out. General MacArthur pays a surprise visit to the Incheon front to observe personally the brilliant achievement. He sees the results of perfect planning. It is a well-pleased general who issues a well done to his men. UN forces lose no time in their drive on Seoul. This is to be the turning point of the war. But even though the tanks blast their way through opposition, the going is not easy, and there is a price that must be paid for the victory. UN artillery is deadly effective, guided by the spotter pilots. He gives the range a direct hit. These films give a vivid picture of the grimness of this struggle. Every device known to modern warfare is used in the police action among the rice paddies of Korea. In 17 days after the Incheon landing, South Korean troops crossed the 38th parallel. The mighty battleship Missouri, her 16-inch guns rising to firing position, carries out her United Nations mission along the Korean coast. The big boys are ready for action to soften up enemy strong points. The target is zeroed in, and they let loose. These are the monsters that have spearheaded amphibious landings that have led to successful encircling movements. Shore batteries reply and score a near miss. A giant among sea giants, the Big Mo puts in her wallop against the red aggressors. Tiny Wake Island. Here it was that a handful of Marines stood off Jap attacks for days. And here it is that President Truman, after an 8,000-mile flight, has his first meeting with General MacArthur, whom he has come to consult on the progress of the Korean War. In a simple radio shack, momentous decisions are reached. Secretary of the Army Pace and Admiral Radford attend the talk with the UN commander, whose Allied forces at that moment were converging on the North Korean capital of Pyongyang. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Omar Bradley, is also among the President's advisors. Before they part at the airfield, President Truman pins the 4th oak leaf cluster to the Distinguished Service Medal on a chest that already bears almost every decoration a grateful nation can offer. In an effort to cut off Reds fleeing north to the Manchurian border, the 187th Airborne Regiment and 120 planes prepare for a drop 40 miles north of the Red Korean capital. Personally supervising and observing the operation is General MacArthur, who watches as the paratroopers drift down in a perfectly executed maneuver. In the words of the general, this closes the trap on the enemy. With a Sunday punch landed, the mop-up continues with UN forces storming north in relentless pursuit of the fleeing North Koreans. Stubbornly resisting Reds had to be blasted out of strong points, leaving behind burning villages, the dead, and the captured. A total of almost 100,000 prisoners have been taken since the tide of battle has turned. A swelling column that heralds victory for the UN in Korea.